What's up, guys? Welcome to Touchdown Talk, where everything and anything football goes. I'm your host, Jason, and today, as you can see by the title, our main point of this video is the breaking news about Deshaun Watson. Now, this video is going to consist of all of the news over the weekend, but I'm going to start off with the most breaking, and that is Deshaun Watson and his 6-game suspension. Yes, I did say 6 games. Now, everyone is going crazy about this after we've seen all the other suspensions that the NFL has handed out, and Deshaun Watson only gets 6 games for the alleged 24 sexual assault cases over massage therapists. Now, we do get a statement from the NFLPA and Deshaun Watson as a joint, so I'll put that up for you guys so you could see it. And as I'm talking about this, you guys can see the statement and read it, but what I'm trying to say is 6 games is a little bit of a stretch for what he should be getting. Now, the NFL still can appeal, but if the NFL does appeal, they would basically be appealing what they first set in stone. Now, the NFL and the NFLPA agreed to go through this process with the judge who gave Judge Sue Robinson, who ended up giving this verdict. So if the NFL does appeal the 6-game suspension, they'd basically be appealing their own decision, in which giving the power to Sue Robinson. So it's going to be interesting to see what the NFL does, but if a sense of what everybody is saying in the media, all the fans, everyone around the world, it's most likely that the NFL is going to have to appeal this, because 6 games is a little bit of what Deshaun Watson should be getting if these assault charges do come up. Now, yes, Deshaun Watson was cleared of charges in the state of Texas in the courts, but there is still one woman who he has not settled with yet, and I do believe she is the first woman who came out about this. So it does look like this is not over yet. This could continue to drag out. We thought maybe this news about his suspension would end the Deshaun Watson drama, but that is not the case. Now, with Deshaun Watson 6 games out, Jacoby Brissett is in. Now, Jacoby Brissett will play those first 6 games for those Cleveland Browns in the absence of Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski, head coach, and the team announced today. Now, let's get right into the news. We're going to be going over the weekend and Monday's news. So we got Deshaun Watson out of the way. So let's get back to earlier in the weekend. And that was that Derek Stingley Jr. is expected to be ready for week 1 of rookie campaign in the NFL. Now, he did have a foot injury that kept him out of last season at LSU, but he does expect to be back. And with the Texans selecting him with the 3rd overall pick, he has a lot to live up to this season. And we got some news out of Denver about Russell Wilson and his contract. Now, Jeff Howe of the Athletic reported that general acknowledgement of interest from both Wilson and the Broncos is the extent of the situation so far, though the discussions could heat up after the team's ownership change is approved, which is expected to come in August. Now, Russell Wilson and the Broncos are going to have to agree on a new deal at some point, because we know that Russell Wilson was traded to the Broncos. We know he's going to want money to be there, and if they traded as much as they did for him, they want him there, they're going to make a deal done with him. Now, with Carolina, we had a name change. Now, last week, we did get news that Shaquille Leonard is what Darius Leonard is going to go by now. Now, Darius went by that name for all of his years, but he always wanted to be called Shaquille, so he's going to go by Shaquille in the future. Now, for Robbie Anderson with the Panthers, he normally would spell his name R-O-B-B-Y, but now he's changing it to R-O-B-B-I-E. He made that announcement, so he is changing his name from Robbie Anderson with a Y to Robbie Anderson with an I-E. Now, after that, we had some Hall of Fame, Hall of Honor news for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is that they are inducting 4 new members, including tight end Heath Miller, offensive guard Sam Davis, right end / halfback Ray Matthews, and broadcaster Myron Cope. So biggest notable guy there is Heath Miller. He was seen at Steelers camp, got a picture with Pat Freiermuth, so that is good for the Steelers getting their guys in the Ring of Honor. Now, for the Eagles and Jalen Reagor, Nick Sirianni announced that he, and I quote, "He's battling for a spot. he is working with the second team right now. So Jalen Reagor not with the first team, but with the second team right now in camp. And by the looks of training camp, it does look like Reagor is the 5th string receiver on the roster. Just by the first glimpse of training camp, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are 1A and 1B. Quez Watkins is number 2, basically, their slot guy. And then Zach Pascal is the number 4 guy, which leaves Jalen Reagor at number 5, battling with Greg Ward. Now, he was seen taking the first team punt return and kick return specialist positions. So if Reagor does make the team for the Eagles, he is most likely going to serve as a utility guy and a punt/kick return guy on special teams, because he does look like he's the 5th string receiver. So it doesn't look like Jalen Reagor is going to make a big impact on the Eagles, which he made last year, but in a negative way. He did have a lot of drops in training camp so far. So it does look like the Eagles are taking a step in the right direction by sending Jalen Reagor down the depth chart. Now moving on from the Eagles training camp to the Buffalo Bills, where Josh Allen and Jordan Phillips got in a little bit of a scuffle, a little bit of a fight in practice. Play the video. This video was on Twitter from @Constantine824. So I'm going to play the video for you guys now so you guys can watch and see what unfolded at Bills training camp. Now, as you can see by the video, a big scuffle burning out. A lot of guys jumping on the pile towards the end. And this comes as a shock because it's Josh Allen. You know, in practice, you don't want to hit your quarterback if he's wearing red. You don't want to hit your quarterback regardless. And especially when he's a star caliber, he's your franchise guy. You don't want anything to happen to him. No matter how small the hit, no matter what kind of touch, anything could happen. And you don't want that to happen in training camp because you need him to win. If the Bills lost Josh Allen to any type of injury, their season would be done automatically right off the bat, unless they go out and trade for a quarterback, which they probably wouldn't do because Josh Allen is still going to come back either during the season or next season. So it would just be a tough pill to swallow for the Bills if something were to happen to him. So hopefully everything calms down and gets relaxed at Bills training camp. Josh Allen just came out and spoke about it, saying that it was out of love. So all fun and games for Bills during their training camp, but still a little bit of a scary scene when that video first came out and you saw that fight, especially with the defender going after Josh Allen just a little bit after the whistle. Now moving on from Josh Allen to Dan Campbell and his nicknames for his players. Now Josh Reynolds, the new Detroit Lion receiver. Dan Campbell gave his nickname for Josh Reynolds, and he said, and I quote, "I call him the praying mantis. He's the spider of death. There's nothing about him. Freaking serpent." So Dan Campbell, obviously high praise for his players, nicknames giving to his players. So Dan Campbell building into that culture. Players are going to go there for the culture, and that is exactly what Dan Campbell is building there in Detroit.
And he's I call him the praying mantis. He's a spider of death. He's just, there's something about him, you know. So, freaking serpent. So I love where he's at right now.
Now, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Jerry Jones came out and spoke about Zeke and Tony Pollard and what he expects this upcoming season, with everybody talking about Tony Pollard being the number 1 back. Now, Jerry Jones said, and I quote, "Zeke's got to be our feature running back. He is our feature. We can feature him in a lot of different ways. We all recognize what he does for the passing game because of his production ability. Don't ever underestimate that, especially with Zeke. So it's critical that we make Zeke, because he's capable of being that, really the focus of what we're doing. There's plenty of room for Pollard when Zeke's in there. Pollard needs to get the ball." Now, Jerry Jones said this according to NFL Network's Kevin Patra. So a lot with Ezekiel Elliott as of late. Jerry Jones obviously putting Zeke number 1. And we'll see what unfolds during the season. But as of right now, it does look like it could be a bit of a mistake putting Zeke over Pollard, especially with what we saw last season. Now, we talked about Deshaun Watson and that breaking news, and now one of the last dominoes to fall, that is Deebo Samuel. Now, Deebo Samuel has been waiting all offseason for his contract. There were talks about trades. There was a trade request. Maybe even Deebo determining a trade destination. It's all over this offseason, and what we got now is Deebo finally getting a contract. Now, Deebo got a 3-year, $73.5 million deal with $58.1 guaranteed. Now, the biggest thing about this contract is that he will be 29 when this contract is up, leaving another massive deal in the wings for Deebo after this contract is up and ended. But for this contract, he gets 3 years, and the 49ers are making moves now. They finally announced that it's Trey's time. They finally are handing the team over to Trey Lance, now paying Deebo Samuel. Looks like the 49ers are on the up and up with their youth, with their main guys. And if they can get this franchise up and running with these core guys, it could be another dynasty in the making, which we've seen the Niners have in the past with Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, Steve Young. We've seen it before, and now if these guys can stay together and live up to the potential, we could be seeing that again with the San Francisco 49ers. Now moving in to right around late Sunday and Monday, we had Maurice Hurst tore his bicep in Friday's practice. We didn't get the news till after, but he did tear his bicep, Kyle Shanahan reported, so this is likely going to end his 2022 season. A big disappointment for the 49ers defensive line, but they have enough guys to sub in for him and get to work. Now, adding to that, Reuben Foster, who played for the San Francisco 49ers, had a workout with the Seattle Seahawks after rehabbing and coming back from a knee injury. So he's looking to get back into the NFL. He played with the Niners, now looking to play for the Seahawks. He had a workout for them. We'll see what comes of this. Now, with Seattle and staying with the Seattle Seahawks, Jamal Adams does not need surgery to repair his broken middle finger on his left hand. So it does look good for Jamal Adams. This reported by Greg Bell of the News Tribune. So it does look good for Jamal Adams. Doesn't seem like it's a major injury, no surgery imminent. So without surgery, it does look like Jamal will be able to come back onto the field sooner rather than later. Now moving on from the Seattle Seahawks to Micah Kiser, who got hurt in practice and had to be carted off. Now Kiser is a big loss. He's a great linebacker, and losing him is tough news at that linebacker position. Now, with the Los Angeles Rams, Van Jefferson saw a specialist on Monday for his knee injury, and it was determined that he is going to need surgery to repair his plaguing knee injury. Now, this is reported by Ian Rappaport. So, with Van Jefferson out a few weeks, we will see what the Los Angeles Rams do. Now with Odell not on the team, him being a free agent, coming back from the ACL injury, Van Jefferson having a knee injury. The Rams did bring in Allen Robinson. They did lose Robert Woods though. So it's all going to depend on who slides into that number 3 role at that wide receiver position for the Rams this upcoming season. Now with the New England Patriots, they signed their punter Jake Bailey to a 4-year, $13.5 million contract, which will be through the 2025 season, and it does have a $6.5 million guaranteed. Now, this reported by Adam Schefter. So, the Patriots lock up their punter, get the deal done. Not a huge deal, but still massive for the Patriots, locking up their punter, who we've seen be tremendously important to the Patriots as of late. Now, staying with the AFC and moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs, Orlando Brown is reporting to training camp on Monday, and he will play on the franchise tag for the 2022 season, this per Tom Pelissero. So this was kind of something that was thrown up in the air on whether Orlando Brown would play or not, especially on the franchise tag, but it was reported that he is, so that is good news for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes gets his tackle, and Orlando Brown is back with the team. Now with Cleveland, speaking of offensive linemen, they activated Jack Conklin off the PUP list, So good signs in Cleveland for Jack Conklin and their offensive line, especially with Jacoby Brissett being quarterback for the first 6 weeks. Now, with the AFC, sticking with them, a lot of news, and that is with the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, with the Los Angeles Chargers, Isaiah Spiller has been taking some first-team reps alongside Austin Eckler. They are the only two running backs with first-team reps. Eckler, obviously, the most of them, the majority of them, but Isaiah Spiller getting into the mix at number 1 reps. So it does look like Spiller is on his way to being the number 2 back in Los Angeles for those Chargers. Now with the Broncos, KJ Hamler passed his physical and was cleared to practice on Monday. We saw a couple of good catches from Russell Wilson to him. So it looks like he is good and back on the field. Looks healthy. Looks like he is ready for the 2022 season. Now, moving on from Denver and their quarterback to now Kyler Murray. Now, we just got the news that Kyler Murray got his contract, and now he has tested positive for COVID. Now, he has tested positive for COVID according to Cliff Kingsbury, who announced it. So, a minimum of 5 days out for Kyler Murray. Now, moving on from one COVID case to another, and that is Pete Carroll testing positive for COVID. So, as you can see on the screen is the Seattle Seahawks news and what they announced for Pete Carroll, dealing with a couple of symptoms, not a ton, not major, but still with Pete Carroll's age, now getting COVID. Really, really, really bad news for the Seahawks. Hopefully he can get back and healthy. Hopefully it doesn't turn into something bigger, especially with Pete Carroll up there in age. Now from one coach to another, now this is Ron Rivera. Now Ron Rivera said that the Washington Commanders plan to ramp up Curtis Samuel because of some questions about his health. So they're going to ramp him up, get him going for this upcoming season, get him started, because he has had a couple of questionable seasons with injuries. So hopefully for the Washington Commanders, he can be back on the field and healthy for the team. Now moving on to the last couple of news bits we have here, and that is the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver James Washington, who had a foot injury in practice today after running down the sideline on Trayvon Diggs. Didn't come up with the ball, landed awkwardly on his foot, on his leg, and will miss the first 10 games for the Cowboys. Big news for the Cowboys receiving room, especially after losing Amari Cooper in the offseason, and now bringing in James Washington, losing him for 10 games. Big news, big loss for the Dallas Cowboys. Now with the Detroit Lions, they signed free agent running back Justin Jackson, who was previously with the Los Angeles Chargers. So they're adding a little bit of a depth at that running back position, helping the running back core and the running back group out behind DeAndre Swift, who is their number 1 back, no matter what. Their number 1 guy proved it, and now will continue. But Justin Jackson, a good backup, who did pretty good with the Chargers when he needed to come in for Austin Eckler. And the last bit of news that we had was that. So that is how we are going to wrap up this episode of Weekend Recap. Obviously, with the biggest news being Deshaun Watson. So if you guys did enjoy this video, drop a like. If you do enjoy my videos, you do enjoy my content, I will see you guys next time.